What?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
What?
I got 2 words for you.
4 minutes, The Rock says, know your role.
All-star wrestling, why that's for me. A super destroyer is on TV. He's got brute strength and all the moves. He's number 1, go spread the news. Tell Jesse the body and all the rest. He's the greatest, he's the best. A super destroyer Mark 2. Stand back and watch what he can do. A super destroyer.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to episode 29 of the Middle-Aged Outlaws podcast. Adam, how the hell are you doing?
So, all good, but, drug-addled and all that.
Drug-addled?
Yeah.
It's a callback to Summerslam 92.
Well, I've not gone full Davy Boy or even Hawk. I'm just, it's prescription medication, but I think it's probably best to just say it because if I sound a bit high, I have a real excuse. There is one,
Okay, we don't want our 4 listeners getting concerned about you. And
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want them thinking, "Oh no, he's got a problem" or something. Well, I do have a problem, which is, this.
You watch wrestling a lot.
It's this like illness that sounds like it shouldn't even exist anymore. But yeah, I have gout, which means my toe and my foot in general is massive. But I needed pain relief, so they gave me pain relief. So yeah,
Is it coming down? You
Yeah,
described it as gargantuan the other day.
Yeah.
Is it coming down?
yeah. It's I can see the swelling's reduced quite a lot, but it's not back to normal size yet. But when it was at its worst, it was incredibly painful, and there was no sleep or anything like that because it's a weird feel. It's like having toothache, that sort of throbbing, constant feeling, but in your toe. It's just horrible.
That does sound horrible. It sounds like we're experiencing quite similar pains, but mine's was elective. Full disclosure, I am also under the influence of pain medication. As I say, mine's was elective, and I am also experiencing a toothache-like aching in another region that is not my foot or my teeth. So, if we don't make sense in this episode, I probably wouldn't make that a much difference compared to normal.
Yeah, I was wondering if we would make sense to each other if neither of us were making. I guess we'll figure it out as we go.
It could be a lot more entertaining than it normally is.
Yeah.
So, last show, we had an absolute banger. SummerSlam 2002 was, that was like the pinnacle of probably everything we've watched so far. So, I tried to keep that momentum going. Enjoyed Triple H in that last SummerSlam against Shawn Michaels. Tried to keep it going with my pick, which is No Way Out 2001. So 2001, Adam, got some little interesting tidbits about 2001 here, if you're interested.
Oh, hit me. Yeah.
February 2001, to be precise. Simpler times, would you say?
It certainly seems like it looking back at the time. I don't know.
Michael Cole still had frosted tips.
Nice.
There was only one heavyweight championship belt being fought for, which was interesting and nice.
Yeah.
At that point in time, wrestlers could legitimately ask someone what without a whole arena screaming it. WCW were on their last legs, as were ECW, which is a little bit sad. Atomic Kitten wanted to make us whole again.
Huh.
Wheatus were singing about being teenage dirtbags.
Nice.
And Papa Roach were contemplating suicide. Oh, that's not, yeah. Apart from that, it was simpler times.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I think it's widely accepted that we're on the back end of the Attitude Era here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny. It's kind of like it feels like that's over and it's transitioning, but
It's something
to
different.
me, I don't know if it knows what it's transitioning to.
Mm-hmm.
It's a funny era.
It is. And this pay-per-view, February 2001, we are one pay-per-view out from what is arguably the greatest pay-per-view all time, WrestleMania 17.
Nice.
But you wouldn't know it because this was shit.
Wow.
Let's see what you thought. Let's get into it. We're in Las Vegas, the fight capital of the world. And we have, for what is the last time in quite some time, JR and Jerry King Lawler in commentary.
Okay.
King famously hangs it up in protest because his wife at the time got the sack. I don't know what she did. Maybe refused to join Right to Censor. And that's why we got Heyman on WrestleMania 17 and that amazing team of Heyman and JR on commentary for WrestleMania 17.
Yeah. I don't know about you. I used to get I loved JR and King early on, and then it felt like it got pretty old. So I think I quite enjoyed this change when it came. But yeah, we're gonna see Jerry Lawler a little later on, and Miss Kitty as well. There's some interesting stuff about in JR's book about he was obviously in the tough situation of they were quite close and he's having to fire the wife and then seeing his friend and colleague walk with her. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
It's an odd one. We'll get into it when we get onto that match. I actually forgot that King was fighting on this. Right, let's jump into this absolute fuck show of a first match. The Hardcore Championship. Our boy Raven, who's a champion. He came from ECW, so obviously he's into hardcore stuff, so he's a hardcore champion, fighting the Big Show. And straight off the bat, JR says that Big Show made his debut at No Way Out in 1999. He didn't. He didn't do that, JR.
Oh, no.
I love you, JR, but no, he didn't. It was St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
That's right. And it was such a good debut. He should remember that.
God, that's Paul White. What was he thinking? And also, is it as Ravens? No, as Big Show's walking out, someone in a gimp suit attacks him.
Yeah.
Who JR refers to as a ninja lady.
Yeah, what was this shit?
I don't know. Apparently it was Tori.
Yeah, so I think that is where it goes to storyline, isn't it? But none of that's confirmed today, is it? I think it's left as a mystery ninja.
Oh, really?
Unless I missed that.
Was Tori the one that was in DX for a cup of coffee?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I feel like this match, possibly, not really with the exception of any match on the card, actually. This match is like a metaphor for this pay-per-view. Just chaos, nonsense and chaos.
You know, we've said before that some of the pay-per-views we've talked about, you start off a show with a banger. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a match that gets the crowd into it. Like quite often, either a really good wrestling match or like a lucha style match or something like that.
Mysterio Angle in that last one we watched.
Yeah. This is not good.
No.
It's, I mean, I know the hardcore title, they had the rule, you know, you could win at any time, you were defending it constantly and all that, but even what they wanted to do here, I think, was to get quite a few people involved, have a few people in the card, have a few changes of the title as it goes. It just felt like it wasn't well done, even if that's what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agreed. I think the best, like the hardcore title was like a moment in time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously they tried to recapture that with that 24/7 title that they did quite recently. I feel like the best thing that they ever did with a hardcore title would probably be around about 99, 2000. Do you remember they did a Battle Royal at WrestleMania 2000? And that was a bit of just a bit silly, but it was quite good fun.
Yeah.
And I remember, I want to say around about Summerslam '99, you had Al Snow and Bossman, like fighting in the streets, and they were in a pub and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, it had its place and it was quite good fun. But I don't see kicking off the show like this. It's just awful. Put me off immediately.
I think the way you would get away with something like this is if it was positioned between two really good wrestling matches. Or, you bring them down with just a nonsense silliness. But the thing about this, you talked, I think, quite rightly about how you had like silly battle royals and stuff like that. And I think they knew that they were silly. I don't know that this match knew that it was silly.
No.
It's like it was trying to be serious.
Especially when Big Show's in it and he's looking all angry and stern and...
Yeah.
Remember Hogan Big Show?
Yeah.
When he was being released, like that version of him would have worked in this. And he could have just hoid all these different people that were interfering about the place, but... I think I generally have an issue with this pay-per-view, and it feels like, I said this to you in text, it feels like they're just trying to they've got this gigantic roster of stars, and they're just trying to shoehorn as many people onto it as they possibly can.
Yeah.
And this match, Raven versus Big Show, you've also got Crash Holly, Steve Blackman, Hardcore Holly, the one Billy Gunn.
So
Molly Holly?
I'm assuming the Outlaws, the New Age Outlaws, had their split. had their split, and they were trying to make a bigger thing of Billy Gunn. I know they did that for a little while.
Is this the year he won the King of the Ring? Maybe 2000?
I think it probably must be around then. I know that, like, I've heard stories about why because he had a good look and all that, but it just never really worked. He was far better in a tag than he was as a singles. And apparently there were stories like he was apparently quite badly asthmatic, so being in a tag team gave him a breather, rather than going at, a pretty fast pace for any amount of time. Just little things like that. But
you should have tried a steroid inhaler.
Oh, yeah, those work wonders. But I always thought it was more just, I think he needed Road Dogg next to him.
I think so too. It just didn't have that charisma, did it?
Yeah. Nah.
And the one Billy Gunn's just Mr. Ass was a better gimmick than the one Billy Gunn is rubbish.
Yeah.
Like, do we want to say that much about this? There's popcorn in the ring.
There's a popcorn vendor, which is it Crash Holly?
It's Crash Holly,
yeah. There's a few switches of title. I can't remember who all wins that. I think Blackman wins it at a point. Raven, I think Billy Gunn wins it at a point. And then Big Show kind of wins it back at the end, having won it earlier on. So he's won it a couple of times, I think, throughout this mess. Yeah, it's just terrible. There was quite a good story I heard about Raven on a podcast. I can't remember which podcast it was, but I know you and I both liked the character, thought it was an interesting character and all that. And particularly like ECW, where probably went a bit far at times with some things. That they had, it must have been Eric Bischoff's podcast, because he was talking about, one week he was talking about the fact he didn't like him, which made it very hard for him to invest in the character. And he said, so like, he was just kind of, he was always moody, he would never agree with anything, he was just kind of an asshole. And then they must have, between that and the next podcast, had like a Starcast or something like that.
Right.
And Conrad had Raven at it, and spoke to him and said, hey, you should have heard what Bischoff said about you. Said you were an asshole. He was like, what, in WCW? It's like, yeah. He's like, I was a massive asshole.
That's class.
Yeah, that's it's about the most interesting thing I can think to bring to this.
Nah, it's no good. It's no good at all. Cool. Should we just move on?
Yeah, Big Show leaves with a belt. We'll move on.
Yeah. We have Kurt Angle, the WWF champion at this point, arriving in a limousine, and Kevin Kelly is there to interview him. So just a bit. I do quite like what he says. He says something like Las Vegas has got the highest percentage of losers in the country, or something like that. Like that's got a bit of nuance to it. It's not just cheapy. It's not, like, it actually makes sense as far as Vegas is concerned.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's basically it.
Yep.
Then we are straight into an Intercontinental. No, we're not. We're with Lillian Garcia. Did you ever look up what X-Pac said about her after our conversation?
No, I didn't. I completely forgot.
Okay. Well, keep that one in the tuck for a rainy day when your foot's sore. We've got Lillian Garcia, and she is with the Rabid Wolverine and Eddie Guerrero, and they're talking about how they're going to how are they going to work together in a fatal 4-way match. So quite generic promos.
They're kind of guaranteeing that one of them will leave with the title, which is, it's an interesting thing when you're playing into the story of two. My memory is they were always either directly or indirectly kind of aligned in their whole WWE run, Benoit and Guerrero. So it's fully believable that they might look at some kind of logic, and they've got heat with the other two participants, and they might look and think it's going to be one of us, but then as soon as the match starts, well, which one of us is it going to be?
Right.
And I quite like that side of the story, so I thought it was well placed having the interview beforehand. And Benoit was never the best talker, but I think with somebody else there with him, it's that helps a bit.
It works. I think in retrospect, Benoit wasn't actually that bad a talker. It's just the era that he wrestled in. They probably had guys that are much better at promos.
Yeah, not many guys much better at wrestling, but plenty much better at promos. But see, I quite like the story around this match. But and most of the participants, probably all of the participants are known to be good in the ring as well. Mm-hmm. So I was quite enthusiastic for this. I was thinking this should be quite good fun. And they were talking early on when we start the match. They were talking about the fact that Jericho doesn't have to lose to lose his belt, which I quite like. Is just it's a really simple story, but it's a story in a fatal 4-way that you have to be on guard for anything else that's happening. You have to try and break up a pin or a submission or anything like that. So you kind of know that going in. And then
he's like got a target on his back. His back's against the wall, isn't it?
And then you've got Benoit and Guerrero with their sort of natural story of, friends that are working together, but are they, and at what point will it fall apart? And it was he's a good worker, and I've nothing against him being in the match, but X-Pac felt like a little bit of just a thrown in element.
Somebody else, aye.
Yeah.
I thought that as well. Yep, so you've laid it out there. We've got X-Pac versus Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit versus the Intercontinental Champion Chris Jericho. I felt that overall, this again just felt just really chaotic. Again, it's like you've just sort of touched on it there. It's like 4 people crammed into the one match. As well as the 4 people, we've also got somebody else interfering. We've got Just Incredible. I don't know if at this point X Factor's a thing. I don't think so, but probably getting to that point. I
think it'll soon be, yeah.
But on the flip side, you got 4, like some of the technical moves that we're seeing here are class.
Yeah, and I know what you mean about chaotic, because I suppose from a story point of view, your natural starting point is Benoit and Guerrero go after one guy each, so they're not facing off on each other. And then if you can take somebody out for any amount of time, you can double team whoever's still left and involved. I think it's easier when it's a 3-way dance, because you can have a big move that eliminates one person and you can kind of rotate that.
Uh-huh.
And then that leaves you periods of a match that are just one-on-one.
Yeah.
And, it's not as bad as like a Battle Royal or something like that, where there's just too much going on and you really can't focus on any individual thing. But even in a match like this, if it's 2 matches effectively going on in front of you, you kind of don't know where to look.
There's a lot going on, aye. And that's exactly what happens. X-Pac gets taken out pretty early on, and we see Benoit and Guerrero double teaming Jericho and go to town on him. King says a really unfortunate line. I think they're talking about the gold and how the people in the ring will do anything for the gold.
Oh no.
And he said, these people in the ring don't care about their families, JR.
Oh no.
They care about the gold. Oh dear.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that. Oh, that is very unfortunate.
It is. I think in the last episode we were marvelling at Guerrero versus Edge, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yes. And Benoit versus someone. Both were brilliant matches. And I don't know if you remember, but the previous pay-per-view of this at the Royal Rumble 2001, Jericho and Benoit have what is, in my opinion, one of the best ladder matches ever. Like the pedigree's there to have an amazing match, but it's just going back to what you said, I just feel like there's too much going on a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, if you had like 2 one-on-one matches involving these participants, you would get 2 stronger matches than this one match.
What you've got
is, I think for me watching it, the story between Benoit and Guerrero kind of kept it ticking along, because initially I'm waiting for them to turn on each other, because it's inevitable. It's going to happen. They both want to be champion. So when that starts happening, there's a couple of moments where, like certainly the first moment where Guerrero breaks up, it's either a pin or submission that Benoit's got on someone.
Yeah. He's got a crossface on somebody maybe.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then, Guerrero's kind of, he's done it and he's broken up, but he's doing that sort of heelish, false apologetic, and he's just so good at that kind of thing. But then, it ends up with them basically brawling. And then I always enjoy, like you've mentioned, I think the ladder match just before, I always think Benoit and Jericho have good chemistry.
Great
and
chemistry.
You get a really good match. But I'm sure I've heard Jericho say before that, they both like to work pretty stiff, so things are going to look like they hurt. And that they would just lay into each other. And it just works. They've got that connection.
I mean, I don't really think there's much to it. There's a couple of spots Jericho progresses through each guy, sticks the walls on each guy. Just Incredible comes down to help out X-Pac. Isn't really that it doesn't really do very much, really. And at some point Jericho rolls up X-Pac to get a quick 1, 2, 3, and he's out the ring and he's away. I thought, like you say, 2 stories. Jericho kind of being the wanted man and sort of dipping in and out, and Jericho, Benoit and Guerrero.
There was something. This is a little bit off script, but there was something I was reading about.
There's no script for this. Tell people there's a script.
There's something I was reading about when Jericho joined WWE. So he debuted, they had the Y2J countdown clock and all that. And then he comes out and The Rock's in the ring and they exchange promos, basically.
One of the best debuts all time?
I think so. I remember it grabbed me at the time. And I suppose the only disappointment is they've basically debuted him at main event level, and then he does drift down a bit, but he gets back up there. And I think he's talked himself about maybe not really doing himself justice in the early stages of his career, but he gets there. But they apparently were very keen, WWE specifically, to sign one of the workers, one of the proper wrestlers from WCW.
Right.
And Jericho was one that's contract came up at the right time and they were able to bring him in. And apparently when he was debuting, the WCW talent, because it must have been both shows live at the time, were all like round a monitor watching. And much as he rated him as a talent, there's a theory that the reason McMahon positioned him right from the start against The Rock was he wanted all the other proper wrestlers in WCW to see it, because there had always been a fear that if I go over there, I'll drop down the card, I'll be buried or whatever. So if you think about him doing that, and then I don't know how many months, or it might have been up to a year later, they bring in Benoit, Guerrero, because they no longer have that fear
Yep.
of, will I just be buried when I join, which is actually is really clever. It's a clever way to do it.
I believe it. I 100% believe that.
Yeah, just I can't remember where I read it, but just an interesting note about that debut, that it was all really thought through from a WWE side.
And I would speculate that he's probably doing the exact same with Cody Rhodes right now.
Yeah, I would think so, because, there's bound to be a point where, I suppose, the MJF's the one I keep hearing about. There'll be a big contract comes up, and if they can take a top talent back, quite a few have gone the other way, but if they can bring one the other way, then it would maybe strike a bit of a blow.
Yeah, 100%. So from the Intercontinental title match, we go to WWF New York, and we see Buster Rhymes in the crowd at WWF New York.
I mean,
he's getting fired up.
I remember I always thought it must be cool as hell to go to WWF New York, and then apparently it was losing money like every day, and must have been a really prime location that they paid a hell of a lot for to be in, and they made it like, I think it was a restaurant through the day, then a nightclub at night or something like that, and it just kept losing money. But whenever I saw it on TV, I thought, I bet it'd be cool to like watch a pay-per-view from there.
Do you know, I went to New York, I'm trying to remember when I went, but I went to New York with Mom and Dad, maybe in 2002, maybe 2003. Anyway, I went and it closed like a month before we got there or something like that, and I was absolutely devastated.
Gutted.
Just got straight back on the plane. So they're speaking to Test, and for all the testicles out there, Test says he's looking forward, because they're talking about the next matchup, which is going to be Trish Stratus versus Stephanie McMahon. Test, who has previously been romantically involved with Stephanie at this point, and I want to say Trish would have been his manager. Would he?
Yeah.
Would she have been TNA manager before this? Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
He says he's looking forward to finding out who the biggest trash bag hoe is. That's that charisma they're looking for, Test. I always hate seeing Stephanie wrestling. She always wears what appears to be her jammies.
Yeah, I mean, all of this is bad. The only thing that I quite liked about this was I really like William Regal's facial reactions to things when they're going on, because I think he's just really good at that.
That's good.
And obviously, you've got this situation with Vince telling him beforehand that, he knows what to do. He knows what he has to do. And Regal clearly has absolutely no idea.
Oh, yeah,
what
yes,
Vince
Mr.
wants him to do. I think this like the point in time where like Linda is weirdly comatose in a wheelchair.
Yes.
And, I think Trish ends up being a very good wrestler, to be fair, but I imagine at this point she's maybe not quite there yet, or maybe she's just not getting the opportunity to do that yet. But
like Vince is basically getting his rocks off sexually assaulting her on live TV every week.
Yeah, I mean, I assume they just would never go anywhere near this kind of thing these days. It's creepy, it's weird. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it.
It's no good, is it?
And as a match when it starts, I mean, it's almost unwatchable.
Nah, I do. Do you know what? I've got zero notes apart from Stephanie's wrestling and her jammies. That it's no good. It's no good match. I mean, for the people that's in it, it's probably surprisingly all right. But I just think compare that to SummerSlam 2002 that we just watched, and compare it to today. Compare it to 5 years ago. Like women can wrestle and put on good matches, and this is just a load of shite. It's just soap opera stuff, isn't it? Russo's still there then? Well, yeah.
2000. He might be at WCW at this point.
I think you're right. You're right.
Yeah. I've got a couple of notes about, like, you know, there's much excitement when Steph throws a jug of water over Trish and King shouts something about wet t-shirt or something like that. So Regal ends up running down to the ring because he has to execute something. He doesn't know what, but he kind of starts wigging it, and he takes out the referee. There's been a double faceplant situation, so they're both down on the mat. Regal takes out the ref. Regal puts Trish on top of Stephanie, and then as he's got out of the ring, he suddenly changes his mind, like thinking this might not be what Vince wants. So he puts Stephanie's foot on the ropes, and then we've got Trish slapping Regal. Regal then takes Trish out. So Stephanie
it's a good
gets
neck breaker.
Yeah, so Stephanie gets the pin win. You're left not knowing, and Regal clearly doesn't know either whether this is what Vince wanted, but we find out just after that this is not what Vince wanted. And unfortunately for the audience, there's going to be a Regal and Steph against Vince and Trish match on Raw the next day.
And was it at this point that you paused the pay-per-view and threw on that episode of Raw just to watch that match, or?
I didn't.
No.
I must have. Something must have happened, because I would have normally, obviously. But, yeah.
Right. Forget all that. Let's forget it.
Okay.
Let's get serious. Austin, Triple H, 3 stages of hell. Here we are already. 3 matches in.
Yeah, it's not. There's 7 matches on the card. Yeah, and they have to space this out a little bit from the title match, because basically, just even from the intro of this pay-per-view, it's kind of sold as a 2-match pay-per-view.
Yep.
It's the 3 stages of hell, Triple H and Austin, and it's the title match later on. This I think was the only thing that I kind of remembered from when I was younger and had watched this. I couldn't really remember like the title match, and I didn't remember every element of this, but I kind of remembered how it went in terms of the pinfalls and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I remember this must just be, what age would I have been here? 20, right? So I was maybe too emotionally attached to the greatness of Austin to believe that Triple H should be competitive in a situation like this.
Right. That's interesting.
'Cause I remember being not just really annoyed that Triple H won, but also really shocked, like that they would have someone beat Austin in a situation like this. It really surprised me.
Sweet, naive child.
And now I had said to you before the podcast that my appreciation of Triple H has grown since then. I think for a while I just didn't buy him as a main event guy. But, you know, I grew to it. You kind of got forced to, because he main evented every pay-per-view for about 5 years. But I think, you know, the sort of character and the work, I appreciated it more as I got a bit older.
It's funny. I think looking at it based on now, I always liked Triple H, but he was forced down your throat, wasn't he? Round about 2000. I almost felt like Triple H was bigger than Austin in this match. I think because it almost feels like Austin went away. Survivor Series 99.
Yeah.
Rikishi knocked him down in the car.
Yeah.
Not Taz with the orange balloons coming at the boot. But like, I feel like Triple H carried, I think in hindsight, Triple H carried a lot of WWF in Austin's absence. Probably at the time it looked like The Rock did, but I feel like Triple H did. And
Triple H was, I suppose, the constant, apart from, you know, a couple of injuries here and there, where, you know, The Rock at a point left to do a movie. Austin left, then came back, then left. And yeah, he was probably the one they could 100% rely on and probably future book thinking of. Whereas I think by this point, I can't remember, you know, when The Rock started doing movies, but I'm sure at this stage, it's kind of known that he is going to be in demand from elsewhere in the future. So I suppose they've got some others, you know, that have come through that are doing well, and then you'll have Lesnar in a year and a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, he must have seemed very dependable, I think, Triple H. And like I say, I definitely have more respect now than I did at the time. I think I viewed him in when he was leader of DX, and it was like a half comedy role a lot of the time. I think that stuck in my head, and that's where he felt like he belonged.
He's peaked
to me.
It's stuck there, aye.
Yeah.
You need to go back and watch the interview with him and JR where he says he's the game.
Yeah, maybe that is what I need
wake
to
up
do.
every morning and watch that.
Yeah, I mean, every time I look back and watch some of his, like, see when we watched that Triple H, Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam 02, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is amazing, this is incredible, and what a performance, you know. And it's, you know, the appreciation of that side of things grew, but it took a while.
I think that's fair. Like, I think he's always going to have that asterisk next to his name because of who he married and who he was friends with and all that sort of stuff. A really difficult one. I think he's a really difficult one to try and place legacy-wise, but then you look forward in NXT and everything else. So it's an interesting conversation to be had.
Did you at any point think this will end 2-0?
Never.
Nah, okay. That's the only issue I have with booking a match like this.
Of course.
The crowd know 100% that it's, I mean, maybe if it was on a Raw or something like that and it was an established guy against a not, you know, or not so established guy, but in this situation, you 100% know you're getting all three.
No. It's like an Iron Man match. It's never going to finish 6-1.
Yeah.
I love the build up to this. I feel like with the you'll be able to correct me. With the exception of the Mega Powers colliding, Adam, I kind of think of a longer storyline playing out. And admittedly, it was kind of retroactively pieced together because I can't imagine that they ran him down, ran Austin down at Survivor Series 99. Said it was going to be Rikishi, but then Triple H was the one who got Rikishi to do it and all that sort of stuff. But
they've clearly decided to change course at a point, but they at least made it work.
It pieced together quite well, and I definitely believed that these two hated each other and wanted to kill each other. They did a really good thing where they did the contract signing and a few weeks or a month out or whatever, and said that if they touched each other, then Austin wouldn't get his WrestleMania match against The Rock against the champion, after winning the Royal Rumble, and Triple H would be banned for 6 months. I don't recall them ever doing that before. It worked. It really did a good job of ramping up the intensity of them not getting a chance to be near each other.
Yeah, because right at that point, you've got Triple H doing an attack on Austin because I think he's faked signing the contracts. He hasn't actually signed it. So he gets one last chance to attack Austin. Then he signs it. Then Austin attacks Steph.
Yeah, he gives her a stunner.
So Triple H's response is to attack JR, well-known close friend of Austin. So all fairly logical in there.
Why would you not attack Deborah?
Nah.
Do we think that JR means more to Austin than Deborah?
Sure, I don't think they ever associated them as on-screen couple, did they?
I tell you what, well, maybe during the invasion, but that's after this.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I never heard of Stone Cold hitting JR with a frying pan.
Yep.
Okay, so 3 stages of hell, Stone Cold versus Triple H. First match, straight up wrestling. Second match would be a street fight, and third match, if they'd need it, is in a solid steel cage.
It's interesting the way they position this, because you're sort of, in terms of storyline, you're led to believe that Triple H should be the favourite to win the first fall, the straight up wrestling match.
Yep.
And then when it comes to the street fight, that should be Austin. And then obviously they're gonna play with the audience a little bit here as time goes. I didn't write a huge number of notes for the first fall. I've got a few about Triple H selling an arm injury, Austin focusing on that.
Yeah, shoulder. Basically try to stop him or I think the story was to try and stop him hitting the pedigree. And Triple H is sort of selling that when he tries to go for the pedigree a couple of times, isn't he?
Yeah, he quite early on, he's going for it. And they've both got these pretty well protected finishing moves, so that always helps when you're teasing a finishing move to the crowd like that.
I don't know about you, I felt the first fall was quite sloppy. They seem to get a few things getting each other's way, and
like the chemistry wasn't going to be great, but it does improve, which is a bit strange. I'd noticed that as well. We've got a few. You've got a situation. They do this in Iron Man matches quite a lot and things like that, where Triple H applies the figure of four, and the announcers will tell you, but the logic is supposed to be: should you just quit because you've got two more falls? Should you allow the damage to be done by staying in the hold or trying to fight your way out of it and things like that? Which is, as I say, they do it a lot in these kind of matches, but it's logical, just to put it in the audience's mind. Because I know we've seen some things in Iron Man matches, like somebody will take a disqualification by, laying somebody out with a steel chair, thinking it gives them the advantage for the rest of the match, and they can maybe get 2 falls to 1 ahead or something like that. So it's always quite logical just to play into a match that's structured like this in a different way. Because probably never seen Triple H tap anyone out to a figure of four. But in this environment, you can see the logic. I didn't expect it to happen, but you can see the logic.
Aye. And Triple H doing the whole heel stuff, hanging off the ropes and all that, try and get some advantage. I think that, this is probably the worst of the three. Is it, like, overall, it's a brilliant match. This is sort of it's almost like a warm-up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly like a warm-up, actually, and it's just them sort of getting going. And we've got Austin going for the stunner, with Triple H countering, and then we end up with Austin hitting the stunner.
Triple H does one of those, I'm coming off the second rope, but I don't really know what I'm going to do as I come down. He hits him with quite a sloppy stunner. And gets
it wasn't the best. It wasn't the one on Vince at WrestleMania, but it wasn't the best.
No.
Austin winning the first fall, which was the wrestling match, which is a surprise. Just in the way it's pitched to the audience, because Austin can't wrestle.
No, he's a brawler.
Yeah, so he's gone 1 up, and then it just immediately goes, doesn't it, into the street fight?
Yes, and it feels to me as if a switch is flipped here. They go straight to the outside. Austin starts doing suplexes on the runway bit. They're in the crowd. And you're like, oh, now they're into it. Like this feels like two people that hate each other. They're going all out. And I've got here that this street fight, similar to the one with Shawn Michaels, this is the type of match where Triple H does just excellent selling. Yeah. He does a really good job of getting beaten up.
Yeah. I do like Triple H in this environment because he sells well, but you also know, with the character he plays, to be honest, regardless of whether he's a babyface or a heel at the time, that he'll do anything to try to win, because he's had that character trait about him all through his career, basically. So I do like him in this environment. I'm never sure how I feel about weapons matches and things like that, because there were so many of them rammed down our throats. We talked about the hardcore title and the hardcore title being a 24/7 thing, and basically every pay-per-view had those matches, and I kind of used to think, well, one match is fine.
It's taken away from it a little bit.
Yeah, because we've had the hardcore match earlier, but nobody cares about that. So this is obviously far superior to anything we saw in that. And I'm probably a bigger fan of the straight wrestling matches rather than street fights in general. But this is pretty good. Like you say, the intensity really ramps up, and I don't know if they were to some extent trying to pace themselves a little bit.
Save themselves a wee bit, possibly. Yeah. Because they go 40 minutes, I think, overall, roundabout.
Yeah, and I suppose if the wrestling match had been particularly intense, and I don't know what, there was a lot of story that Austin had to change his style after his neck break, and before that he'd been a good ring technician, then he just kind of became more of a brawler at that point. So potentially the sort of straight up wrestling match, they couldn't go out and put on an absolute clinic. Maybe it just wasn't viable, so they potentially just held back deliberately a little bit in that.
Yeah, well, they're certainly not holding back here at all. You've got a 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire. Yeah. We've got sledgehammers. We've got hellacious chair shots. Both men end up bleeding. I think at one point, I can't remember what it is that opens Austin up, or is kayfabe supposed to open Austin up, but he clearly nips behind JR, cuts his head, and he puts the blade on the table that is used, and King knocks it away.
Oh, did he? I didn't notice that. Yeah, I've got in my notes it was they sold it as being from the barbed wire 2x4.
Right.
But yeah, it was clear as I was watching it that he'd bladed. I didn't notice the blade, and I noticed exactly when he would have done it. But yeah,
funny. That's twice we've watched pay-per-views where it was King of the Ring 98 as well. It's so obvious where Austin sort of nipped away and cut himself, sort of thing.
Yeah.
They eventually get to a point where Triple H one of them has cleared the Spanish announce table.
Yeah.
Austin then begins clearing the JR and King table. They get to a point where they're up on the tables. Triple H is going to pedigree Austin through JR and King's table, and instead takes a bugger of a backdrop, basically misses the Spanish announce table almost altogether and lands straight on the concrete. It looks brutal. Yeah,
I didn't like the look of that. Like, as someone who, just because I'm middle-aged, has experienced back problems, I look at things like that and just think, no. I don't know how you don't do significant damage doing something like that.
I don't know. Adrenaline must be flowing to be able to just...
I mean, it absolutely looked like it didn't go the way it was planned, and I'm sure the way it was planned was a lot safer of a bump, but, these things obviously happen.
Aye. That was a bad one. Like I say, Triple H gets just absolutely rattled, and that happens a lot. He gets rattled with a chair shot for Austin. Austin's terrible for some of these chair shots.
Yeah.
But like at the time, we would have just been like, "Whoa, amazing!"
Yeah.
You look back and you're like, "What on earth?"
Yeah, it's harder to watch now than it was then.
Aye, definitely. Inevitably, the sledgehammer comes out, like we said.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the decider, isn't it?
Did you hear Lawler when the sledgehammer comes out? He sort of accuses JR of having brought all these weapons along because it's brought out from under the announce table.
I like that. I've never seen it. I've never seen a weapon be pulled out from underneath there before. I quite like that. You say it ties into Triple H assault on JR and all that before.
Yeah. We've got Austin going for a stunner, but Triple H has picked up the sledgehammer, catches Austin in the face with it, then hits the pedigree, which has been teased so many times earlier in the match, but he executes it this time. So we're tied at 1-1, and to everyone's astonishment, we're going to stage 3, the steel cage.
The crowd are in silence. And as the cage is coming down, Lawler likes to Lawler mentions a few times they should have cleared the ring before this cage comes down because we've still got the barbed wire 2x4. I think the sledgehammer might still be in there as well.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, you're thinking they must be spent. How are they still going to do, like a decent match in a steel cage to rival the street fight they've just put on? Because isolated, that street fight was pretty class alone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
They slow it down again. They spend a good portion of this rubbing barbed wire in each other's face.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough.
It's not my favoured way of, spending time, but yeah, each to their own.
Aye. We did get two really good surprising kickouts of finishers. We get pedigree. Austin kicks out at 2.9. And then we get a stunner after Austin hits a sort of slingshot into the side of the cage. Triple H comes back off, hits a stunner, and again, he kicks out 2.9. And that really ramped up the drama. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
I'd totally forgotten how this finished. Had you?
I couldn't remember it at the time. I knew who won and I knew like the order in which the falls went,
right,
but I couldn't remember the finish because what I was thinking was because I knew going into this that I'd been annoyed as a younger man watching it, thinking how dare they put Triple H over, But to be honest, they couldn't have done it much more in a way that kind of protects Austin.
Aye. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I was thinking about. Right, let's go into that after. So when I saw them, Austin picks up the barbed wire. 2x4. Triple H picks up the sledgehammer. You can see where this is going. They're going to do the Apollo Rocky thing at the end of of Rocky 2, Rocky 3. They both hit each other at the exact same time. Austin falls first. Triple H flops on top of him and gets a 1, 2, 3. Austin's obviously going on to WrestleMania. He's won the Royal Rumble. That's secured.
Yeah.
You're keeping him. Austin get beat every single week for a month. You're still keeping him strong, regardless.
Yeah.
It's Stone Cold. But this, to me, this felt like a huge win for Triple H. This felt like a catapult.
I think this is maybe. I think you've hit on probably what the biggest difference I would think now, like just trying to be a bit more logical about it than rooting for the guy I wanted to win, which is that you need to build people up as you go. And you could put, certainly around this era and for the few years before, you could have put Austin in any title match at 5-minute warning and nobody is debating his right to be at the top of the card.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Triple H, this kind of win, much as he's been to the top and he's been hovering around just below for a long time, but this kind of win can give you every reason to then push him to the very top, because it's over the biggest star in that era of wrestling. I can understand it now and looking thinking, I think it was the right move to put Triple H over, and maybe even wondering if they should have done it a bit more definitively. But you at the same time, you don't want to crush Austin when he's got a title match coming up at WrestleMania.
It's funny, you think about something like that happening now. Say 2022 Royal Rumble. I can't even remember. I can't even remember who won Royal Rumble or anything like that this year. But say Drew McIntyre won the Rumble, and then at the next pay-per-view he fought Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins beat him. You'd probably expect them to be doing a triple threat match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, true. Because I'm not sure where Triple H goes after.
Triple H comes out the next night and says, I've beaten everybody. There's nowhere else for me to go. And Undertaker comes out and says, well, you've never beaten me.
Okay.
Do you remember they have Kane? I think Kane hangs Stephanie off a bridge or something like that, and it's fight him at WrestleMania or whatever.
Yeah.
So Triple H Undertaker at WrestleMania 17.
Of course.
Aye. This was good. This was really good.
Yeah, it's really engaging because you kind of get drawn into it. Yeah, it's nothing like the Triple H Shawn Michaels match in a way, but in another way, it's similar in the way it kind of grabs you and pulls you into it.
Aye.
And some of the brutality as well. And you've also got that sense of this isn't over. You've still got somewhere to go if you need to, a little bit further down the line. Because much as Triple H picks up the win, Austin's the one that walks out because he hits a stunner on Triple H after the match. And then Triple H, with his victory in his pocket, needs some assistance, leaving the ring. So yeah, it definitely didn't hurt anyone. It was a good match. It was very watchable. It's kind of, it's not a great card, this, and it's not a great pay-per-view. But this match shone.
Absolutely. The amazing thing to think about is that from here, you have Austin turning heel and beating The Rock.
Yeah.
You have him teaming up with Triple H the following night after that WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You've got a 2-man power trip, and then you have Triple H tear his quad, and he's out. He misses the whole invasion. It's crazy the way that whole thing has weaved itself, and I don't think you ever get Triple H and Austin again.
Yeah, that'll be right, I'm sure. Because when he does, is that the time when he comes back? It's Jericho as undisputed champion, and Triple H is going to WrestleMania, and Stephanie's aligned with Jericho and all that. Yeah,
yeah, and roundabout then, Austin's feuding with the NWO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Bizarre. It's a shame.
Yeah, because it definitely felt watching this like there's more mileage. Because I quite often think, sometimes things like a cage match are done too early in a feud, but there's definitely no feeling that there's nowhere to go here. Mm-hmm. There's still, plenty of matches these two could have had. And yeah, it's a shame thinking about that wasn't really able to happen.
Yeah, because we were talking about the build-up from SummerSlam, Survivor Series 99, but they've not actually had that many matches. I think they maybe had one. Maybe, I want to say, No Mercy 2000 or something like that. Something like that.
I'm assuming...
I made that up. No.
No, I think you're right. I'm assuming they were still aligned when Triple H tore his quad.
It was Austin. I think it was Austin and Triple H v Jericho and Benoit.
Yeah, I think that's right. So you've got to assume that at a point they were going to build that for the two of them to split.
How good would that be?
Yeah, and there was just never the chance to do it, which is a shame.
I can smell a fantasy booking episodes coming on that. Let's put Austin and Triple H to the side and march on with this pay-per-view. Because we've went to the highest of highs. By the way, Meltzer gave that 4 3/4 stars.
Okay.
I think it's one of the most infamous matches that never got a 5-star rating.
Right. Yeah.
So there you go. And I'll tell you, you'll be shocked at what Meltzer gave the main event. But anyway.
Okay. I'll tell you what I give the main event when we get there.
Fuck a Meltzer rating. So our next match, we've got the right to censor. And we have Miss Kitty, who I think is now going by the Cat. She's she's grown up, much to Jerry Lawler's annoyance. So at this point, right to censors Bill Buchanan, Stephen Richards, The Good Father, Val Venus, and Ivory. And they're basically going around being dicks, spoiling everybody's fun. And one of those people is the Cat, who just wants to get naked. Because 2001.
And like 98% of that crowd want that to happen as well.
They do. Aye, they do. King, who in real life is married to the Cat, takes up for her on an episode of Raw or SmackDown, and says, I think Stephen Richards says you can challenge any any of the members are right to censor, and if you win, she can get naked. If not, she has to join the right to censor. I can't believe I'm sitting here explaining all this. And King says, I'll fight you then. So that's why we're here. I do not have an awful lot of notes, but I tell you what, Adam, I thought the King can work. Oh yeah, I mean, he's a legend. I know that by the time he got to WWF, his best years, his Memphis years, where he's, I think, the most popular wrestler of all time, and basically ruled that territory for forever. I think his best days of regular working were behind him, but he's still good at a lot of the elements, I think he's sort of known or considered to have the best working punch in wrestling. And he can perform his moves, he can sell, he can basically do what you need to do for a match. Yeah. He's quite good at working a crowd.
Yeah, he is. And again, he's one of these guys that I just didn't like when I was young, particularly when he first came in. He had like a program with Bret Hart and all that. And I was thinking, this guy is nowhere near the level that, because I had no idea what Memphis wrestling even was at that point. But it's sort of later on, you gain a bit of respect and appreciation. But yeah, he can work a match. I don't have many notes either. I've got something about the cat hitting the King with the women's title accidentally.
That's literally the finish.
Yeah, that's my first note.
I was surprised that the right to censor didn't come and get involved in this. Ivory gets up on the apron a couple of times. Thought it'd be a bit more shenanigans. I genuinely expected, I can remember her getting naked at some point, so I expected King to win.
Okay.
But yeah, like you said, she hits him with the title by mistake, and Richards gets the pin.
Yeah, I've got Stevie Richards wins. The cat is carried away against her will by the right to censor and will never be naked again. And then I've written, she will be a never nude.
Nice. Nice. I like that. They put her in a sack for unknown reasons.
Yeah.
They never put the good father in a sack, did they?
I don't think so.
Also, Stephen Richards does the whole train, which was weird.
Yeah, I always liked Stephen Richards. I didn't. And looking back, I don't hate the idea of having this group that are, especially given the era we're just coming towards the end of, where it's all, childish gestures, nudity, innuendo, all that. I think this kind of group makes sense. I don't know if it was ever executed all that well.
Their music's horrendous.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be like a rib on some sort of parental council or something like that, weren't they? Yeah,
I think people who regularly complained about the contents of the show. And yeah, they're just openly mocking that. And I do think it's quite a good idea. I don't know, maybe it just never enough story or effort quite went into it or walks. Again, some of the performers in it did well in other roles. It just didn't quite click.
B Squared, are you talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's even logic to Val Venus and The Godfather being in right to censor as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, Kat is gone. She apparently, I was listening to JR talking about it, and he was like, he was head of talent relations. That's what you were alluding to. And he didn't even know what she'd done. It was just that she'd pissed off Vince, and he wanted her gone, and she was going to be gone that day, and that was it.
Yeah.
Odd.
Yeah. It must be a brutal job, because, you're working with these people every day, basically, and then one day you're just told, for no reason that you're given, that person has to go. They're done.
Aye.
Yeah.
So, from there, the sort of, what's the opposite of a heater?
A cooler.
There you go. The cooler match, we go to what I expect they think was probably going to be a heater. I being such a Debbie Downer on this pay-per-view, but I hated this next match as well. This is a tables match for the tag team championships. We've got Edge and Christian versus Dudley Boys versus Brothers of Destruction, Undertaker and Kane.
Yeah, I didn't really like this either. I don't know, like, I was trying to think in my mind, is it because we've been spoiled by, some of the Edge and Christian, Dudley's, Hardys, those type of matches, and then you bring in Undertaker and Kane into this kind of innovative, fast-paced tag environment. I don't know, it didn't work.
I don't know, I don't think so. It felt, I've never watched a match round about this era. Now, I think you get these matches where it just feels like spot after spot after spot, people coming in for their little bit and going back out again. That's what this felt like to me. Like, this is the spot where Undertaker and Kane do a number of different moves, all the same. The Dudley Boys need to lie down in the aisle for a while whilst they do this.
Yeah.
So it's really weirdly choreographed, if that's the right word.
It didn't grab me. And I've got some notes, but it's all just, this move was performed, that move was performed. I didn't get into it. I just wasn't feeling it.
And again, like, this is a triple threat match, 6 men already being used.
Yeah.
Harken back to what I was saying right at the start here, we then shoehorn 2 more people in for whatever reason, probably because Undertaker and Kane are these monstrous characters. You need some way of getting them out of the finish, getting away of logically them not winning the titles, basically.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Rikishi and Haku come down and start attacking them.
Yeah, was there any explanation at all about why they were getting involved?
Nah.
It was strange. I mean, it's maybe just they wanted to make their mark on this big, powerful, team. It seemed really
why not just
random.
make it a fatal 4-way and have them in it?
Yeah. It seemed strange.
It was. And like Rikishi was like so over as a face, and then they tried to do something a bit different with him, and he had that I'm a bad man music and all that, and it just fell flat in its face, I think, didn't it?
Yeah. When he was with is it Too Cool? What was it called?
Yeah.
That worked, and I get maybe that kind of thing has a short shelf life, possibly, and you're not maybe developing. You're maybe not ever gonna win a big title being in Too Cool, but I don't know, it worked. The crowd always popped for it whenever they were doing their little dance.
It did. He was hugely over.
Yeah. Was it basic? Did he basically turn with the "it was me, Austin" thing?
I did it for the Rock, brother.
Yeah. So they obviously had bigger plans at a point. It feels like it's obviously faded away long before now.
Yeah. Like Edge and Christian, who we're big fans of. I think I was shitting on Edge the last time we were talking about him, but like they're just really, really underused in this match. Yeah, especially.
I was wondering. I've heard it's been covered a couple of times, I think, by someone from each team, that when the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardys were involved in their matches, they would all, talk through the match, get their spots in and all that kind of thing. It made me wonder if you've got like 2/3 of that, but you've got Undertaker and Kane in the mix as well. And they're like, well, we're not doing that. We're not doing those stuff. I'm not getting speared off a ladder, that kind of thing. I suppose it has to be a totally different match, because in those matches, everyone has their spots, but everyone bumps as well.
Yep.
And you're just not going to get Undertaker and Kane taking those kind of bumps,
And they two do dominate this match.
Yeah.
Pretty much the majority of the match. Undertaker's wearing really weird clothes. Don't know if you noticed. It's like a padded onesie.
Oh, nice.
Like Big Evil, but Big Evil's a little sleepy.
Yeah. Maybe
was
try to
odd.
add another strange layer to his character.
Cuddly Big Evil. How does this one finish? I think they maybe botch. Edge is supposed to go through a table. He's running it. Bubba supposed to hit a spear. Bubba moves, but the table is no for budging.
Yeah.
So they sort of chuck Christian through.
Yeah, they do what looked like an impromptu 3D through the table. I always think the 3D is a really cool move. I'm a fan.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I was happy enough seeing it, but it did not look like that was the plan.
How of an era is it? Is the WhatsApp, the WhatsApp?
Yeah, I put that in my notes somewhere. The Dudley's doing the WhatsApp on Edge.
Devon get the tables.
Yeah, you just I don't know if that kind of thing would get over now. I don't know. It'd obviously have to be something from a more modern advert, but yeah.
It's funny to think. So that's basically that is us. We've got one thing left to do. We've got The Rock with Michael Cole.
Yep.
And instead of doing one of his hilariously entertaining promos, it must have been around about this era when he did the amazing promo going into Armageddon. Yeah, it was his Armageddon 2000 where he did impressions of everybody that was in the match.
That's an amazing promo. It was brilliant.
But we've got Serious Rock here, and all he seems to be doing is imitating a clock. I don't really like it. Do you like it?
Nah, this whole show, The Rock really pissed me off.
We were talking about him being quite bland as a face round about SummerSlam 2002, and I was getting that feeling again here.
Yeah, there was... Because in this, through everything he does, there's actually heel elements of it. And I was thinking, Kurt Angle's obviously a heel here, so they wouldn't want heel versus heel, but Rock was always a bit more interesting with that slight edge to him. And, when he's just a arrogant, cocky prick, but when he's a babyface and he's getting the crowd cheers, that arrogant cockiness, I don't know, it didn't do anything for me. I don't enjoy it, but he really annoyed me throughout this whole thing.
Yes, talk about it.
Okay, firstly, why is the champion Kurt Angle coming out first?
I don't know. I hate that. That really annoys me. The only thing I can think of is for a rock pop. But you can still get a rock pop by him coming out first.
You can. It's a disgrace, and it's disrespectful to my American hero.
Oh, you're working. Okay, let's see.
I always liked Kurt Angle.
I thought you were going to say I'm always working, brother.
Damn it. But he's incredibly unfairly treated through this. Anyway, right. So we start the match. We're going back and forth. Angle is in control because he's out wrestling The Rock. So the heel is just straight up a better wrestler. That's just a fact. Kurt Angle,
agreed.
Incredible wrestler.
Agreed.
It's a slightly odd way of positioning it, but to be honest, beyond Benoit, could you really realistically have somebody out wrestling Angle? Probably not. I think the crowd would maybe smell bullshit in that kind of situation. So we've got the sort of threat of the ankle lock, and Angle's going for it. Rock's near the ropes. He gets there quite quickly. I always prefer it, to be honest, when maybe this is the one thing The Rock did here that I didn't mind. When if they're going to get to the ropes, don't be in the hold for ages. Get there quite quickly, because I want to keep that hold being something that's pretty vicious, pretty dominant.
And it shows you that this the challenger that's possibly the favourite fears that big style, so he needs to get to the ropes. He's desperately clawing.
Yeah,
I need to go at this. This is bad news. Yeah.
So that's fine. We've got a Samoan drop by The Rock for a 2 count. And then he hits Angle with a suplex. He's starting to get a little bit of momentum going. But then Angle throws Rock through the ropes to the floor, and Rock starts selling his hurt knee. Now, if I jump straight, I assume this happens quite quickly, but I'm jumping straight to The Rock hitting a DDT, but then the Big Show's music hitting.
Mm-hmm.
Why? So Why? Yeah, why do we need the Big Show here?
Why is his music hitting?
And yeah, if you're doing a run out,
Well, I'm just. It's really kind of the element of surprise is kind of thrown.
and also trying to think of the logic backstage. Right, I'm ready to do my running. Can you just cue my music?
And play now. Let's go.
Ready to go. Come on. So yeah, that's just silly. For a run in, the music shouldn't hit. And I'm saying that, but I suddenly had a memory of, do you remember the Raw when Mick Foley won the title?
Mm-hmm.
When you've got like DX round the ring and the Nation round the ring and all that.
Yep.
When Austin comes out to interfere, his music hits, but the pop when his music hits is incredible. So in that situation, okay.
That's fine.
Yeah,
yes.
because it's different.
Crowd are not going crazy for the hardcore champion. Wandering out here smoking a fag. I
mean, we've already had him in a match that stunk the place out. We don't need to see him again. So, he comes in and chokeslams everyone. So he chokeslams the ref, Kurt Angle, and The Rock.
Disqualification. Match is over.
But also, what was the point?
Well, The Rock had beaten the Big Show on the SmackDown to get the title shot against Angle. And I think I want to say that he rock bottomed him on a chair whilst the referee was distracted. So I am assuming we're supposed to think that Big Show's annoyed about that.
Yeah, and I get that. If he'd come out and just attacked The Rock, but he's laid out everyone. Now, for the story and the way they want to go with this, they have to have a ref bump, which I get, because that's going to come into play. So poor Mike Chiora, he's out. He's gone.
He's destroyed.
Yeah. So we've got I think a few refs come out to try and help him out.
They do.
And then Earl Hebner is going to take over. So Kurt Angle makes a cover. It's a 2 count. The Rock, blatant cheat that he is. He gets the title belt and smacks Kurt Angle over the head with it. Absolutely despicable. No integrity. You could say there's some intelligence there, but
intensity
no integrity
as well. But no, 2 eyes.
And then we've got, the my Olympic hero Kurt Angle kicking out at 2, because he's the best in the world at this point. So
they do say that.
Yeah, and
one of them says it on commentary. I remember thinking that. I wonder if that's the first time they've referred to someone as the best in the world. I think Shane McMahon was like, ting!
Shit, I forgot about that. We've got Rock moving towards Angle. Angle getting an ankle lock on him. I'm a big fan of when Kurt Angle really gets that ankle lock logged in and he starts just verbally berating the guy.
Yes.
I think what he shouts is, "Tap out, you son of a bitch, or I'll break this fucking ankle."
Yes, yeah, he does. That's class.
I love that. Rock gets to the ropes and we're like led to believe the damage is done. So I'm thinking, go on, finish him, Kurt. Get this job done.
Why do you hate The Rock this much? This is news. Just this pay-per-view.
Yeah, he really annoyed me during it.
Okay.
I think the promo, the start of the match, I bet it's not his fault that he came out second, but that annoyed me and I'm blaming him for it.
Definitely his fault.
And then, he's just hitting people with belts. That's against the rules. So,
You're right.
We've got The Rock is now making some comebacks, but Angle keeps cutting him off each time, but then he hits a spine buster out of nowhere. We've got The Rock hitting the people's elbow. Thank God my man Kurt kicked out of that too, because
did he though?
Well,
did he kick out, or did Earl Hebner make an absolute James Hunt of it?
Earl's hand didn't go down.
He did that stupid jerking thing that he
slip
did.
Yeah. But I am not having that stupid move beat Kurt Angle. No chance.
You CM Punk.
The one thing The Rock does well here for me, good facials. He's doing the disbelief. He can't believe that Kurt Angle managed to kick out of what was a comedy move for so long. We've got to me, The Rock is acting a little bit heelish, and I know we're probably in an era, well, we're definitely in an era because Attitude was all that, but there's shades of grey, you know, nobody is all good or all bad. That's fine. So he's getting a bit heelish with the ref, and Kurt Angle, you know, just in retaliation for the belt shot, lands a low blow. So it's the Rock's own fault. Ref would have seen it if he hadn't been pushing Earl Hebner away.
Agreed.
Kurt Angle does remove the turnbuckle pad. I mean, I'll admit that. I'll acknowledge that. The Rock goes for rock bottom. Angle counters. Angle sends the Rock into the turnbuckle, then hits the Angle slam. I really thought that was it. 1, 2, Rock kicks out. The Rock then sends Angle into the exposed turnbuckle and poised to hit the rock bottom. You know, that's come back at Kurt. Yeah, he should never have exposed it. That's his bad.
That's karma.
Yeah, Rock hits the rock bottom. I've got in my notes, yeah, Kurt kicks out. Did he?
No,
Earl? Did he?
He did not.
And then...
What was he doing? Stop doing that weird jerking thing and just count to 3.
Don't know. I've always thought he's a really good ref, but that was weird. Rock hits another rock bottom, and that's it. So it's taken 2 rock bottoms to put away the champion.
And a people's elbow.
And a people's elbow.
And a belt shot.
I assume... so Rock's won. He's new champion. I've got in my notes here, are we meant to just forget about the belt shot and Kurt having Rock pinned for 20 minutes before the ref came in and all that? He was screwed. And the Rock shoving Earl Hebner, did he do that for Brett? I don't think so. Yeah, I just wasn't happy with the Rock here at all. And we know, you know, from a business point of view, if you've got the opportunity to have Austin Rock as your main event for WrestleMania, of course you should do that. But poor Kurt Angle. I mean, he's just nowhere now. I can't remember what he ends up doing at that WrestleMania.
He fights Benoit.
So he just goes out and has a classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got I've put right at the end of my notes, away to Hollywood, you prick. Yeah. I wasn't even on the drugs when I watched this, was I? No, I wasn't.
And you sound like you were fired up.
Yeah.
I found this, so I'll tell you what, actually, give us your star rating.
Star rating, 2.5.
Meltzer gave this 4.25 stars.
Really?
Aye.
I thought he was always sort of notoriously pretty harsh on WWE stuff. Because that doesn't strike me as a match that should have got anywhere near that.
Me neither. I found this boring. I find Face Rock to be quite bland. I've said that already. I find his matches, not heel Rock, really enjoyed heel Rock in 98. And his matches. And like when you think of Rock in 99, I immediately think of Royal Rumble, with the chair shots of Mankind. But even WrestleMania 15, like I think I enjoy heel Rock. Face Rock, everything feels formulaic. His sharpshooter's stinking. I hate it. I hate when he does it. That is not paying. You're not paying homage if you're doing something shit. You're spitting in that person's face.
Yes. Yes.
Hebner made an absolute mess of this. There's a good bit where Hebner and Tim White were helping Mike Chioda out, and Hebner spies the pinfall, so he just drops Chioda and jumps in the ring. It's pretty class.
Oh, poor Mike.
Yeah, I did not like this at all, and I don't know if it's just that high of the 3 stages of hell. I don't know if I was just down on this pay-per-view altogether, but I would never have thought that the pay-per-view before WrestleMania 17, that I would have come away thinking, do you know what I was actually thinking? I was genuinely questioning, do I actually like wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that entered my mind, because I didn't love this, I really enjoyed the 3 stages of hell. I quite enjoyed parts of the Intercontinental match, but that was about it. But I was wondering, I think the last wrestling thing I'd watched was that SummerSlam 2002, which was really good, and pretty hard to follow. But yeah, I imagine if you went and watched WrestleMania 17 now, you would still think it was great. I imagine. It's just maybe just a bad show.
Maybe. And, like, you've got the high of the Rumble, and then you've got quite a long build-up between the end of this pay-per-view and WrestleMania. Because I was thinking, you've got storylines to fit in. You've got Undertaker Triple H to build. You've got Rock Austin to build. There's been, there's been nothing. So I think, what was this, 25th of February, and WrestleMania is not to the start of April, so they basically used that whole March to build. So maybe it's to be expected that it's just a case of putting things in a row as far as getting WrestleMania sorted out, but that shouldn't affect. That's got no bearing on Big Show coming down with his music on in the middle of this match and shoehorning everybody and their granny into the matches.
Yeah. This is a little bit off topic. It's kind of, I don't know. I always think to myself, would wrestling be more appealing now and better now if they massively reduced the number of pay-per-views or whatever they call them now, premium events?
Premium live events. Because it feels at premium events that you have to have whatever your biggest storylines are, that has to be a step along that path. Whereas in the old days when you had say 4 pay-per-views in a year, you can build.
Yeah. Whereas I don't know, it just seems too much now to let you build. But then you constantly hear things about, people's attention spans now, and you can't really do the sort of long drawn out storylines, certainly not as many of them nowadays.
I think the thing is, though, that people that watch wrestling now, like, you probably don't have casual fans watching wrestling. So the people that are watching are probably watching and sort of understand what's going on, and so you probably can get away with longer term storytelling. But like when you call your pay-per-views Hell in a Cell, and you call your pay-per-views Money in the Bank and TLC, you're forced into contrived matches.
Yeah, that side of things has annoyed me for a while, because I mentioned earlier you shouldn't have, say, a steel cage match really early on in a rivalry. It should be the end point, the blow off. But it's you'll have your biggest storyline nowhere near ready, say, for a Hell in a Cell match or something like that, but you've got a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. So what do? Do you ignore that storyline, or do you? I don't like the way they work it now. I don't think it's necessary to have these events scheduled for each year, regardless of what's going on. It just seems a bit silly.
Yeah, same.
But the thing that started making me think about storylines was the last sort of, you've got the tribal chief thing, which has been a long-term storyline, which is, I imagine still going pretty well. Just maybe run out of opponents to some extent. But I remembered we must have been speaking Triple H just earlier, and I remember thinking about that Batista storyline when they were in Evolution together. Yep. And then Batista wins the Royal Rumble, but there's 2 titles, and it's, I think, Triple H whispering in corners to Flair about what's he going to do and stuff like that, and Batista indicating he's going to go for the other belt. It's fine, and you've got the built-in element of what happened with Orton when he'd won the title, and then Triple H just had them turn on him and destroy him and throw him out of the group. And that was sort of one of the last long-term storylines I could actually remember. Yeah. And a guy like Triple H, being a loving wrestling history and all that, he must love the thought of long-term storylines. But I don't really have any idea whether he'll be in a place of influence again at any point.
Doesn't sound like it, does it? And obviously they've undone a lot of what he's planted in NXT. Yeah. I'd probably quite liked it at some point. What sort of year are you talking, that Batista stuff? 2003 maybe? 2004? Is it earlier than that? It's ruthless aggression either, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Ruthless Aggression era.
I'll need to have a wee look. I don't think I was watching when like Evolution were a thing. Obviously, Evolution is a mystery, but so is whatever year this was. Are you checking?
Yeah, I'm just having a look, and I think the easiest way is just look up when Evolution were a faction. 03 to 05,
Hey.
they were a faction, so it's somewhere within there, I think,
Cool.
because I think Batista was kind of, but there would only be 2 guys left after he'd broken away from them.
So did Triple H Batista main event at WrestleMania? Aye.
Yes, they did.
I'll need to keep that in mind for future packages.
Yeah, I remember really enjoying the way they did it. It's a good storyline. It was just a good, week by week, you're just seeing things change, and you start seeing like the knowing looks of Batista when he realizes they're trying to play him and things like that. And I think that massively helped his character, because he'd always been kind of just portrayed as this, huge monster.
He's the heater.
And they gave him character with all this. They gave him personality.
Nice. Talking of Evolution, do you see Ric Flair's supposed to be making an in-ring comeback?
Somebody needs to stop that from happening.
I saw it was supposed to be Steamboat.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know what age Steamboat is, but Flair's like 76 or something.
This is a terrible idea.
I seen footage of Jay Lethal suplexing him.
Yeah, so
What's
did
that
I.
all about?
Nah, this just shouldn't happen. And I worry he doesn't have anyone in his ear telling him that this shouldn't happen.
He definitely seems a bit misguided at this point in his life.
Yeah.
With all the sort of stuff that you read about, nobody ever contacts me sort of stuff, and everything that comes out his mouth just seems to be very self-centered. But yeah, please don't wrestle at 76.
No, nobody should want to see that.
Unfortunately, lots of people will probably want to see it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
What age did we say Sting? Sting's in his 60s, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's diving off of things.
I think you sent me a clip of that, and I was thinking, just don't. I'd like the sound of the role they'd had him in AEW. As like a mentor type person, and occasionally, having a tag match with the protege and things like that. That, to me, that's how you use someone like that. I don't have any real. He's 63, Sting.
Is he? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Don't do it. So, No Way Out, 2001. I apologise. I put my hands up and say that was a bad choice.
I mean, it seemed like a really good choice going just before what we know is a great WrestleMania. So you weren't to know.
I'll try better next time. Talking of which, what have you got for us next?
Okay, so what I decided was this pay-per-view is always one that stuck in my memory because of there was a unique feel about it, and there's a crowd which is kind of like no other that I'd really heard before at a wrestling event. I do have a fear that it's maybe like a show that's massively centered around the main event, and the undercard might not be the best, but we will find out. I am picking Canadian Stampede.
Yes. 97?
Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
Yes.
So
crossed my mind to pick as well, so love that.
I think this will be fun. I'd mentioned to you before, it's quite a short show. So the fact that we missed last week means that I think we can turn this one around quite quickly for doing the show next week, which actually ties in really nicely because after that, it's my wife's 40th, so I will probably be unavailable the following week. So this all ties in quite nicely, I think.
I thought you were going to say she was going to come on to celebrate her 40th birthday, and we could have discussed her favourite pay-per-view or something. No?
Yeah, I think that would have been a struggle. She's not a big fan.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't think ever was. You know,
Do you think you could?
even
Do you think there's a single match you could show her to change her mind?
I don't think so.
I used to always think that if somebody says they didn't like wrestling, I would show them TLC 2.
Okay.
So maybe on our 40th birthday.
So actually on the day.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
get her up and make her breakfast and say, look, this means a lot to me.
I've arranged a really nice day for you. We're going to have a nice meal, and then I've picked out something for us to watch later on, which you know, I think you'll really appreciate.
There's a rhino, there's a former school teacher, there's thongs, ladders, everything. You'll love it.
Yeah, it's a tough sell, that one.
Well, if anybody can do it, I've got a lot of faith in you. Anyway, Canadian Stampede, you were talking about Triple H Mankind?
Yes. Now, we actually talked earlier about Mankind, and, you know, the fact he's kind of known for helping make, or Mick Foley anyway, known for helping make a lot of stars.
Yep.
And kind of elevate them. And I think always in helping them be taken seriously as guys that can take a lot of punishment. So we'll see what this match brings. I have to say, I don't remember it. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, it should be fun.
The thing that I'm most looking forward to is to see which members of the Hart family make an absolute dick of themselves. Because there's about to be some of them.
I'm very concerned.
Bruce.
Well, my biggest fear, because I do remember the very end of this, and, you know, there's a lot of hearts in the ring, let's just say. But I've got a horrible fear that, what's her name? Diana Hart?
Oh, no.
We just have to keep her away from any and all microphones.
People.
That would ruin this entire show.
Let's go. Oh, no. That'd be class if she did the exact same thing again.
Oh, no.
Sean Mooney is standing by. And, no, Diana, just sit down.
Yep.
It's a funny main event. I want to say, I might have this wrong. Is it a 10-man tag?
10-man tag, yeah.
LOD, Goldust, Shamrock.
Yep.
That's all I've got. Austin.
Yeah, that's the 5.
That's only 4.
LOD.
Goldust. Oh, my God.
Were you counting LOD as 1?
Apparently. That's actually 3 because Rocco.
Oh, God.
Oh, dear. Oh, well. What else is on that card, do you know?
Yeah, I do. So, we have the great Sasuke. Sasuke?
No, thank you.
Taking on, I think, the WWE debut of Taka Michinoku.
Beautiful.
We've got a world title match. The Undertaker defending against Vader.
Nice.
So,
what era of Undertaker are we talking about there? Like sort of.
I think still Undertaker, but having split from Paul Bearer, because I think Paul Bearer's associated with Vader, and I think we're just a few months away from Kane.
Okay.
So yeah, and obviously Vader, big favourite of yours. So,
aye.
Yeah. But this is actually a really short show, so it's just the Triple H Mankind, Great Sasuke against Taka, Undertaker, Vader, and in the main event. That's
okay.
it.
Nice.
So it's one. It was an In Your House, so it's one of these, like, is it a 2-hour pay-per-view or something like that? Then you just purely the in-ring action. Really not that long, but there's a lot around the main event. There's a lot of
heart business.
Yeah, and from what I remember, like, you know, they speak to fans outside. Is it Montreal or is it? No, it's Calgary. So obviously the Hearts are incredibly over, and from what I remember, the reaction for Brett is incredible.
Nice.
And I really like this era because you've got the dynamic of the Hearts and Brett specifically being heels in America and babyface most other areas.
Amazing. Is that smack bang in this era?
Yeah.
Is it? Amazing.
Yeah. And it's just brilliant. It's so cleverly done. And I don't think ever really deliberately done. But it couldn't have worked better, really.
It's kind of like the best. That's the way that the best things happen, isn't it? It's an organic way of things happening like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Look forward to watching that, Adam.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
You keep coming up with these awesome shows. Pulling out Stephen Richards v. the King.
Yeah. Let's just see how this one goes, because I do look at some of the undercard and think,
Is Triple H Mankind a Steel Cage? No. Is that different?
No.
Is that SummerSlam?
Yeah, I think it's just a regular match, and I think it's one of the earlier sightings of China, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. Because he'd gone through sort of having a different valley, every time for a while, and then China comes out and China sticks.
Okay.
Don't Google that.
Did it? No, definitely not. That was something that made me laugh. I'm going to need to look this up now. During that No Way Out pay-per-view, they show China's autobiography. And I want to say it's called something like "If You Only Knew" or something like that. Oh. It's like, is that referring? No, this is too early in her career for her to be referring to her adult film career. But
yeah.
Anyway, if you enjoyed No Way Out 2001, unlike us, give us a shout on our Instagram page at Outlaws Pod. And we will be back next week to talk about Canadian Stampede. Canadian Stampede? Yep.
Canadian Stampede.
In your house. Looking forward to that, Adam. Great choice. Until then, please take it easy. I hope your foot gets better, buddy.
Thank you.
And I will continue to ice my balls. Bye.